Hey there, Kinder Campers. Hopefully, you guys had a fantastic Easter weekend with your families. We're here for another chapter in our fantastic Magic Treehouse story, A Perfect Time for Pandas. So, last chapter we read about Bing Bing, and Annie and Jack were cleaning Bing Bing's cage, and then they were responsible for recording and writing down on their pieces of paper what they saw and their different observations of Bing Bing in her cage. Now, at the end of the chapter, they had all left and they were heading back into Wulong Town. Now, we're going to read our next chapter, and the next chapter is titled A Dragon Wakes. Oh, what does that mean? A dragon wakes. Well, it kind of means a dragon gets up from sleep. He wakes up. And it's something that we do every morning before we come to school, or before you eat breakfast, or before you get your clothes on. You wake from your sleep. So, a dragon wakes. Sounds pretty fun. Jack put on his brakes and jumped off his bike. Annie did the same. A huge boulder crashed down the mountain slope beside them. The boulder slammed onto the road right in front of them. They looked around wildly. Rocks were sliding and tumbling. Trees were whipping back and forth and then breaking apart. Branches, rocks, dirt cascaded down the slope. As Jack tried to figure out what to do, another boulder tumbled down, and then another. Jack pulled Annie off the road. They scrambled into a rocky crevice and huddled down. Clods of dirt hit their bike helmets. The ground finally stopped shaking and rumbling. For a moment, neither Jack nor Annie said anything. Then Jack uttered one word. Earthquake. I know, Annie said hoarsely, like that earthquake we lived through in San Francisco. Except their buildings crumbled all around us, said Jack. Here, it's mountains. I think it's stopped, said Annie. Let's look. Annie started to stand up, but Jack pulled her back down. Wait! The ground had started shaking again. Aftershock, he said. Watch out, more stuff might fall. No sooner had Jack said that than another enormous boulder crashed to the ground. Then another one tumbled down. The earth stopped trembling again, but the air was so thick with dust and grit that it made Jack's eyes kind of burn. I wonder if the pandas are all right, said Annie. Oh man, said Jack. Bing Bing. He pictured the giant panda in her yard, trapped underneath a rock or a tree. We've got to go back, said Annie. I know, said Jack. They started scrambling out to the road where their bikes were. Jack and Annie looked around. As the dust settled, they saw massive damage up and down the highways. Fallen rock, mud, trees blocked both ways to Wulong Town and the way back to the Panda Center. A boulder the size of a car had crushed both of their bikes. Jack and Annie took off their helmets and dropped them to the ground. We can't go back to the Panda Center now, said Annie. We can't go to town. We can't go anywhere. No kidding, said Jack. You'd have to be King Kong to get over this stuff. King Kong? Annie repeated. Then she looked at Jack and grinned. What? He said. King Kong. No problem, she said. We can do that. Do what? Said Jack. Turn into King Kongs, said Annie. Well, not quite as big as King Kong, maybe, but we could be 5 times bigger than we are now. Oh, said Jack. He'd forgotten all about their magic potion. It's perfect, said Annie. It's the only way that we can get out of here. Yeah, said Jack, letting out a long breath. He reached into his backpack and took out the small bottle that held the magic potion. 5 times our size, said Annie. You're almost 5 feet tall. So 5 times. So you'll be almost 25 feet tall. and I'll be just a little shorter. Right, said Jack. But we can only use it once, said Annie. And we only have an hour. And we have to choose which way to go. Back to Wulong Town or back to the Panda Center. If we go to town, we can keep looking for the special food to save Penny, if the restaurants are still even open. Plus, we can leave in the treehouse whenever we're ready, said Jack. Right, said Annie. But we'd have to leave Bing Bing and the rest of the pandas behind. And we wouldn't know what happened to them. And we wouldn't be able to help. Jack stared at the bottle. It was a terrible choice he had to make. Then he thought of something. Remember on our last mission, you said that when we do the right thing, it feels like somehow helps, Penny. Even if it seems to take us away from our goal. Annie smiled. Yep, and everything worked out on that mission, didn't it? Jack nodded. Panda Center, they said together. You take a sip first, said Annie. Jack popped the tiny cork off the bottle. He tilted his head back and took a quick sip. He licked his lips and then held the bottle out to Annie. Just as Annie took the bottle from Jack, the ground began to tremble with another aftershock. Jack started to shake. Yikes! Cried Annie. The aftershock ended and the ground stopped trembling. But Jack kept shaking. Annie yelled something, but Jack couldn't understand what she was saying. His body was still quaking. He had started to grow. And that's the end of our chapter. So, boys and girls, this is what I want you guys to be thinking about today. Okay? I want you to go to your journal page for today's chapter. And I want you guys to think about how has the setting changed from the beginning of our story that we started last week, the very beginning, to today? What was different about the setting today in our chapter about a dragon awakes, and then all the way back to the beginning of our story? What was different? Where were they at the beginning of our story? And where are they at now? So I want you guys to illustrate and label a picture of the setting. Now, you might be able to draw a line right down your paper and draw the setting that you read today, and then on the other side of your page, draw the setting for the beginning of our story. See if you can maybe label something important in those settings. Maybe something you see, maybe a character, maybe part of the picture. Okay, something important. And then try to write a sentence about how they are different. So, boys and girls, I want you guys to have a great day. I will see you guys tomorrow for our morning message and our next chapter in our Magic Treehouse book. The next chapter's title is Jack the Giant. Sounds awesome. All right, guys, have a great day. I will see you tomorrow. Adios.